In this lesson, we're going to look at another way of creating a pattern from scratch, this time with a bit less playing though, and a few more techniques for injecting expression into a more robotic beat. So I'll go into pattern mode and hit pad 6 to create a new pattern, and we'll keep it at just a bar long again. I'll turn on the metronome once again. This time though, I want to make sure my playing is totally in time and also the velocities are constant, so the volume doesn't go up and down, which is something you often want when adding the main drums like kick and snare. So if I hit the settings button up here, then we can check out the record mode options, as well as finding things like the metronome level and count-in length on the left display. The right display has a quantize option. If I set this to record, then any events I create will be automatically quantized, without me having to do it afterwards. Play and record means it also quantizes what you hear whilst playing, so this might be something you want for performing on occasions. Coming out of the settings page now though, the other thing I want to do is have fixed velocity on. And if you remember, to check the fixed velocity amount, it's in pad mode's second display. So I'll crank that up to max. And now I'll hit shift and record to give myself a count in, then start playing. That's my kick and snare in then. Just to show you another example of how effective the record quantizing and fixed velocity are, I'll record in some hats, playing a faster pattern. So even with that much harder to play sequence, going into the arranger and then events mode, you can see that all events are totally locked to the grid and have the same velocity values. I'll undo that though, as I want to show you a much easier way of creating this kind of pattern, and that's with note repeat. This is the next button along from fixed velocity, and NI made it a bit bigger on this hardware so it's easier to quickly locate, as it's a pretty popular control. If I hold it down, then press a pad, the sounds play in a repeating fashion, which is a slightly easier way of playing the 16ths from before. If you want to change the speed, then there are buttons on the right display, or the encoder to change it even more drastically. To make it stay on so I don't have to hold down the note repeat button, I can turn on lock. And there's also a hold button, which means the sound continues repeating after I let go of a pad, although you can see I need to hold down note repeat still. So if I pin note repeat, then it works without me having to hold anything down. One other thing I might like to do though is to turn off fixed velocity. Doing this means that I can apply different pressures whilst holding down the pad to create a hats phrase that goes up and down in level in a more expressive way. I'll record that in. So that's a pretty easy way of creating a much more interesting groove than having fixed velocity for the hats. And all the events are totally precise timing-wise, so no need to make changes there. However, I'll undo that and show you another way. So I'll turn fixed velocity back on, and then record in the hats at full volume. Now those hats are recorded in, if I want to change the groove, then I can use the variation button. I'll pin it so it stays open. And on the display now, you can see we've got these two modes. We'll get to random later, so for now, we'll just work with humanize, which literally just applies variations in velocity and timing to events on the selected pad. So we'll only affect the hats when we have pad 3 selected down here. Then I just need to set the velocity range across which the hats will be randomized with the low and high settings. I'll make it a bit lower so the variation is a little more extreme. and I'll leave the timing as I want notes to stay locked. And then I'll just hit apply. And now, coming out of variation mode, you can see the notes have different velocity values. I think I'll change the range though, so it's a fair bit quieter, to have the hat coming in and out a bit more, and generally not so loud. And I can hit apply as many times as I like to try out different grooves. So that's how to create a groove using level or velocity adjustment. Now let's see how to do it by shifting timing. We'll look at this more later on too, but as an intro to it, let's say I want to add some toms. First, I'm going to keep fixed velocity on, but I'm going to bring it down a bit. And now, with record quantizing on still, I can record something in. Now I played in a very simple pattern there, so I can show you a few things. Firstly, if I decide I want to get rid of one of those drums, there are a few ways of deleting them. Firstly, if there's one event for the drum you want to lose, you can hold down Erase, and then, with the pattern playing, just press the pad when the event sounds to remove it. Or, undoing that, you can remove all events on a particular pad at any time by holding Erase and Events, and then hitting the pad you don't want to hear. Next, I want to adjust the timing of the high tom. So, if you remember, Events are selected in the Arranger's pattern mode by making sure Events is turned on the right display, and then choosing the event you want to edit, after which I can change its timing with the position encoder. So I like the feel of having it a bit earlier, so the beat is more syncopated, as the events are now on the 16th note in between the down and the upbeat. So these notes have made it feel a little groovier, mainly through that high tom. But if I wanted to give this beat an even more relaxed feel, then I can use Machinna's Groove feature, which automatically adjusts the timing of events to create a shuffle. The easiest way to apply this at this stage is with the master encoder, which I just set to swing mode, and then rotate to turn up the master groove amount. And you'll hear what a drastic difference it makes to the feel of the beat. So with a setting of around 30%, and with that humanization applied to the hat's levels, you can hear we get a much more natural sounding beat.